Hi, and welcome to the beginning of chapter 11. I'm very excited to be starting this chapter. Today, we are going to talk about combining like terms. So, the first thing we need to discuss is what does that mean, like terms? Well, when we talk about terms, we're really talking about the letters in an expression. But it can also really refer to anything. Combining like terms is combining things that are the same. So, a real life example, let's say I have a basket of 3 apples and I have a basket of 5 apples. To combine like terms, if I put them all in the same basket together, well, I had 3 apples and 5 apples. I now have 8 apples altogether. Okay, in math language, what this would look like is if I had 3 apples in one basket and 5 apples in another basket, and I wanted to put them together, the operation that puts things together is adding, then I have a total of 8 apples. This right here is combining like terms. So because this was the letter A and this was also the letter A, or in our example, they were both apples, because of that, they are like terms, and therefore, yes, we're allowed to add them together and say that we actually have a total of 8 apples. On the other hand, what if I have a basket of 3 apples and 5 oranges? Am I allowed to put them all together and say I have 8 apples again? Because that's what I did before. I just took everything, put it all into one basket, and said I have 8 apples. The problem is that I had 3 apples, but I have 5 oranges. The oranges don't magically turn into apples just by putting a couple more apples into the basket. So even if I say plus, I'm not allowed to say, oh, that equals 8 apples. Yeah, for sure. When I add A and O together, it just magically poof turns into a whole bunch of apples. Okay, that's not allowed. You're not allowed to do that. Cross that off. No, 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 no. So if I gave you this and I said, hey, you need to combine like terms, because that's what we're learning about, the answer would be you can't. It's as simplified as it gets. If it forces you to type an answer, you would just type 3A plus 5O because there's nothing to combine. So let's look at just another example. What if, let's say I ate 7 pieces of pizza. And already I started that example wrong. Let's say I start with 7 pieces of pizza and I eat 3 pieces. Well, then how many are left? I just subtract, right? If I ate them, it's like I took them away. So if I had 7, I ate or I took away 3, that means I have 4 pieces left. Yes, I'm allowed to do that because that's pieces of pizza and that's pieces of pizza. They are like terms, they're the same thing. Okay, well, what if instead I said, hey, I have 10 hot dogs and I ate 4 cookies? Am I allowed to say, hey, 10 hot dogs minus 4 cookies equals 6 hot dogs? No. Okay, if you have 10 hot dogs and you eat 4 cookies, they're not related to each other at all. So you haven't changed how many hot dogs you have because you didn't eat any hot dogs. So you are not allowed to do this. You cannot combine them. They're not like terms. So this would be as simplified as it gets. Now, sometimes, a lot of the time, it's actually even more complicated looking than this. You might get something that looks a little bit crazier. What if we have 3t plus 5z minus 8t squared minus 4z plus 11t plus 8w minus 3t squared. Whew! And I say combine like terms. Well, this one's not quite as simple. There's not just 2 things that we're looking at and deciding yes or no we can combine them. There are a lot of different ways or strategies to figure out what this should look like when it's combined. That means like shortened or made as simple as possible. We're simplifying it. I like to put shapes around each term. And when I put a shape around a term, I need to put a shape around the term and the sign right in front of the term. So let's start with this. I'm going to put a box around this. Now I said the term. A term is each thing separated by a plus or minus sign. So here's a term, and then I have a plus sign, and then here's another term minus sign, here's another term. Okay, so each of these little things is a term. And I said I also have to put the shape around the sign in front of the term. Well, there is no sign here. So I could, if I want to, remember that, hey, if there's no sign, I could put a plus. I don't have to, but that's just for me to remember that I do always need to remember what sign's in front. Now I need to go through and find everything that's a T. So I look through here. Z sounds like T, but it's not a T. Now this is tricky. This is a T, but it's not a plain old T. It's a T squared. So it's not actually the same thing. It's not a like term. So then I keep on looking. Here's a T. I'm going to put my box. It has to be around the term and that sign. Keep looking. And again, there's that T squared, but that's not a like term. So to combine them, only the things in the boxes are what I'm putting together. So I had a positive 3T plus, and the reason I put a plus there is because there's a plus right here. I didn't just decide to choose a plus. Okay, I did it because there's a plus there. And now I can combine. I'm going to go ahead and put my answer, my final answer down here. So 3T plus 11T, because they're like terms, I can combine them. So now I have 14T. But I'm not all done because the only things I've done is the T's. So I like to use different shapes because normally I'm using pencil, and so I can't do like different colors. I obviously could do different colors on here, but I'm going to show you different shapes. So I did a square or box. How would I do a circle next? Now notice when I circled it, I did the term and the sign in front. This was a Z. I'm going to keep looking. Term and the sign in front. And that's it. So I'm going to go ahead and erase this so I can have a new one. So this was a positive 5T. Because it's positive, we don't have to write a plus in front of it. And then minus. The reason it's minus is because of this. Not because I just randomly chose minus, but because of this. So minus 4Z. And then 5 minus 4, 5Z minus 4Z. That would equal 1Z, but we don't really usually write the 1. We just write a Z. So I could put a Z, or I will put a Z here. But I have to put something right there. I don't get to just randomly choose something. The way I decide is I look right here. What sign's right here? Well, there's not anything right there. So if it's invisible, that means it's positive. Cool. Let's keep going. We're getting closer. Let's see, I did a box and I did a circle. How would I do like a cloud or flower, whatever you want to call this? I have a negative 8T squared and a negative 3T squared. So now this is negative 8T squared minus 3T squared. So I could just in my calculator type negative 8 minus 3, negative 8 minus 3. I don't want to throw in any extra negatives where there's not supposed to be. And that gives me a negative 11T squared. And I just write negative 11T squared. And because it was negative 11T squared, that's how I know that that actually becomes a minus. I didn't put a plus there, but minus because of that negative. Minus and negative are really the same thing. We just use the words in different situations. Okay, and we are almost done. Our last thing, maybe I'll just underline the last one. It's just a positive 8W. There's nothing else to combine it with, so I'll just put 8W. And again, because it's positive, well, because there's nothing there, that means it's positive, so I put a plus there. So then this would be our final answer. That is as simplified as it gets. So that is our introduction to combining like terms.